The first time I saw the Blackburn estate, I thought I'd walked into a dream or a movie. The iron gates, ornate and imposing, swung open silently, revealing a long, manicured driveway lined with ancient oaks, whose branches formed a perfect canopy overhead. At the end stood the house, no, the mansion, a sprawling testament to old Southern money, all white columns and wraparound porches, glowing like a pearl in the Georgia twilight. "Welcome to Briarwood, my little sparrow," Cassius Blackburn whispered, his hand resting possessively on the small of my back. His touch, once electric, now felt like a brand, a claim. I, Sera Vance, from a double-wide trailer in Macon, had no business in a place like this, but Cassius had seen something in me. He'd called it refined potential. He'd polished me, dressed me, and taught me which fork to use. He'd made me his wife. 6 months later, the dream was beginning to curdle. It was the silence that got to me first. Briarwood was a beautiful, suffocating vault. The staff, led by the severe housekeeper, Mrs. Holloway, moved like ghosts, their faces neutral masks. Cassius's mother, the matriarch Octavia Blackburn, held court in the drawing room each evening, her eyes missing nothing. Her compliments laced with subtle barbs. "That color is brave on you, Seraphina. Your Georgia accent is still so charmingly present." But it was the locked door on the 3rd floor that truly haunted me. The one Cassius had firmly told me led to a structural hazard. The one I'd seen his younger brother, Lysander, slip out of at 2 in the morning, his face grim, a metallic, coppery smell clinging to his clothes. The party for Cassius's father, Alistair Blackburn's 65th birthday, was the social event of the season. The house was filled with the scent of gardenias and the low hum of powerful people making quiet deals. I was performing my part, smiling in a gown that cost more than my first car, when I felt a hand on my arm. It was Lysander. His eyes, the same startling blue as his brother's, were dark with an emotion I couldn't place. Fear? Warning? "Don't wander tonight, Sera," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the string quartet. "The gardens can be disorienting in the dark." It sounded like a threat wrapped in concern. My heart thumped a nervous rhythm. As he melted back into the crowd, I saw Octavia watching us, a faint, knowing smile on her lips. She knew. They all knew. I was no longer just a wife. I was a liability. Back in our opulent bedroom, a gilded cage within a gilded cage, I locked the door and sank to the floor, my body shaking. The tea arrived. Mrs. Holloway placed the silver tray on the bedside table, without a word, her eyes avoiding mine. I looked at the delicate china cup, the steaming liquid within. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was it just tea, or was this how they handled problems? A quiet accident? A sudden, tragic illness for the new bride who didn't understand the rules? I was trapped. I had seen the monster behind the mask of Southern gentility, and the monster had seen me. The lavish lifestyle, the beautiful clothes, the endless money, it was all funded by something dark and violent, and my refusal to participate, my mere knowledge, had made me the next target. The gilded cage had just locked shut, and I was beginning to understand that the only way out might be in a body bag. The days that followed were a masterclass in psychological torture. I was a bird with clipped wings, constantly watched. Cassius's affection became a performance for the staff, a display of ownership. In private, he was cold, his questions subtle probes disguised as concern. "You've been so pale lately, my love. Perhaps you should see Dr. Abernathy. He's the family physician. Discreet." The word discreet hung in the air like a threat. I refused, claiming a headache was to blame. I took to wandering the grounds during the day under the ever-present gaze of the groundskeeper, a hulking, silent man named Gideon. The estate was vast, its beauty now sinister. The perfectly trimmed hedges felt like walls, the serene lake a potential grave. It was on one of these walks that I found it. Tucked behind a forgotten gazebo, overgrown with ivy, was a small family cemetery. The stones were old, bearing the names of blackbacks going back to the 1800s, but one, newer than the others, caught my eye. Eleanor Blackburn, beloved wife and mother. The dates were from 15 years ago. Cassius had never mentioned a previous wife. My blood ran cold. Beloved wife. How had she died? I thought of the locked room, the secret passage, the conversation about making problems disappear. A twig snapped behind me. I whirled around. Lysander stood there, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. She was beautiful, they say. Like you. Headstrong. Also like you. What happened to her? I asked, my voice a whisper. He gave a humorless smile. A tragic accident. Fell from the third-floor balcony. His eyes met mine, and the warning in them was clear. This family has a lot of those tragic accidents. He turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the cold shadow of the past. The message was unmistakable. Eleanor had been a problem, and problems were eliminated. That night, I was summoned to Alistair's private study, the legitimate one, not the hidden lair. He sat behind his massive desk, Octavia perched like a vulture in a wingback chair beside him. Cassius stood by the fireplace, a glass of bourbon in his hand. "Seraphina," Alistair began, his voice dripping with false warmth. "We're concerned. You seem unsettled, distant. This family has certain responsibilities, a certain reputation to uphold. We all must do our part. Discretion is the price of admission, my dear." They were circling me, offering me a choice I already knew was an illusion. Join them, become complicit in their crimes, or suffer the consequences. "I understand," I lied, forcing my voice to be steady. "The party was overwhelming. I'm still adjusting." Cassius came over and put his hands on my shoulders. It felt like a snake coiling around me. "We just want you to be happy, Sera, and safe. This world can be dangerous for those who don't know how to navigate it." The threat was veiled, but it was there. Be happy, be safe, fall in line. Later, desperate for any ally, I sought out Lysander. I found him in the stables, brushing down a magnificent black stallion with a nervous energy. "Why are you warning me?" I asked, cutting to the chase. "You're one of them." He didn't look at me. I'm a Blackburn by blood, not by choice. I was born into this cage, same as you married into it." He finally turned, his eyes haunted. "Eleanor, she was kind to me. She didn't deserve what happened to her." "Tell me what to do," I pleaded. He whispered. "There's a safe in the third-floor room, the one they keep locked. The combination is our mother's birthday, 10/31/53. What's in there? It's the only thing they fear. It's their Achilles heel." "Why are you helping me?" "Because I can't do it myself," he said, his voice cracking with a desperate shame. "But you're still clean. You might have a chance." Getting into the third-floor room was the most terrifying thing I had ever done. I waited until the dead of night, my hands slick with sweat as I picked the old-fashioned lock, a skill I'd learned from a felonious uncle I'd spent years trying to forget. The room wasn't a structural hazard. It was a shrine and an office. One wall was covered in photos of Eleanor, her laughing face a stark contrast to the coldness of Briarwood. The other wall was a command center, maps, financial records, a bank of monitors showing security camera feeds from all over the property. My heart hammered as I found the safe behind a painting of Octavia. My fingers trembled as I spun the dial. 10/31/53. The lock clicked open. Inside was not money. It was a ledger, a detailed, handwritten record of every shipment, every bribe, every problem that had been resolved. Names, dates, amounts, and tucked in the back, one single folded piece of paper, a signed confession from Alistair Blackburn detailing his role in a multi-billion-dollar drug trafficking operation, likely an insurance policy against his own family. It was a nuclear weapon, and I was holding the launch codes. I heard a floorboard creak in the hall. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I had overstayed my welcome. I shoved the confession into the waistband of my pajamas and closed the safe and slipped out of the room, locking it behind me. I barely made it back to my bedroom before I heard the heavy, deliberate footsteps of Gideon, the groundskeeper, patrolling the hall. I was now in possession of the only thing that could destroy the Blackburns, but I was also more trapped than ever. They would tear the house apart looking for it. My cage was now a prison, and the warden knew I had the key. The gilded cage was about to become a battlefield, and I was the only soldier on my side. The hunt began at dawn. I was woken by the sound of raised voices downstairs. Alistair's roar of fury was unmistakable. "It's gone! Someone has been in the safe!" I dressed quickly, my hands shaking so badly I could barely button my blouse. I had hidden the confession inside the lining of my suitcase, a temporary measure. I needed to get it out of the house. I needed to get myself out of the house. At breakfast, the air was thick enough to choke on. Octavia sat at the head of the table, her face a marble mask. Cassius was pale, his jaw tight. Lysander wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. "It seems we have a thief in our midst," Alistair announced, his gaze sweeping over the staff before landing squarely on me. "A breach of trust, the lowest form of betrayal." "What was stolen, Father?" Cassius asked, playing his part perfectly. "Nothing of concern to anyone else," Alistair said, his eyes still locked on me. "Simply a private family matter, but it will be found, and the consequences for the person responsible will be severe. Mrs. Holloway served the eggs. Her hand trembled slightly. They were terrifying everyone. After breakfast, Cassius cornered me in the conservatory. "Where is it, Sera?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. "Where is what? I don't know what you're talking about." He grabbed my wrist, his grip like iron. "Don't play stupid with me. You were in the library. You were seen near the third-floor room. My father's personal document is missing. Give it to me, and we can forget this unpleasantness ever happened." "I told you, I don't have it." I yanked my arm back, my heart thundering. "Maybe you should look at your own brother. He seems to know his way around that room." A flicker of doubt crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced with cold certainty. "Lysander knows his place. You, on the other hand, are still an unknown variable, a stray we took in. And strays that bite get put down." The bluntness of the threat stole my breath. There was no more pretense. I was under constant surveillance after that. Gideon was my shadow. I couldn't take a step without him appearing. My phone had no signal, the landlines were monitored. I was completely cut off. My only hope was Lysander. I managed to slip him a note during a tense family dinner, scribbled on a napkin, "I have it. Help me get it to the authorities." He read it, his face impassive, and tucked the napkin into his pocket. He gave me a slight, almost imperceptible nod. The plan was set for midnight. He would create a distraction, a small fire in the West Wing laundry room. In the chaos, I would slip out the back, through the gardens, to the old boathouse on the lake. He would meet me there with a car. The hours dragged. Every tick of the clock was a lifetime. I clutched my suitcase, the confession feeling like a lead weight. I was putting my life in the hands of the most unstable Blackburn. It was a desperate gamble. At 11:58, the fire alarm screamed through the house. This was it. I opened my door and peered out. The hallway was filled with smoke and the panicked shouts of staff. I could see figures running towards the West Wing. I slipped out, keeping to the shadows, and made for the back staircase. I was almost to the kitchen door when a figure stepped out of the darkness. Octavia. She stood there, calm and immaculate amidst the chaos. A small, elegant pistol in her hand. It wasn't pointed at me, but held loosely at her side. "Going somewhere, Seraphina?" she asked, her voice eerily calm. My blood ran cold. "The fire, I was just going outside." "I think not." She took a step closer. "You have something that belongs to my husband. You will give it to me, and then you will return to your room. This childish rebellion is over." I backed away, my mind racing. I was so close. "I don't have anything." Lysander told us everything. The note, the plan. Did you really think he would choose you over his own family, over his own survival? The betrayal was a physical blow. Lysander, he had sold me out to save himself. I was utterly alone. "Your disease," I spat, my fear turning to fury. "All of you. You hide your rot behind money and manners, but you're just monsters." "We are survivors," she corrected me, her eyes gleaming. "And you, my dear, are not." She raised the pistol. In that split second, a lifetime of surviving in a world that had never given me anything. The trailer park, the fights, the hunger. I had clawed my way out once. I would not let these people be my end. As she took aim, I didn't think. I acted. I swung my heavy suitcase with all my strength, catching her squarely in the wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. She cried out in shock and pain. I didn't wait. I turned and ran, bursting out the kitchen door into the cool night air. I could hear heavy footsteps gaining on me. Gideon. I reached the boathouse, but there was no car. No Lysander. Just the dark, placid water. It was a dead end. I turned. Gideon stood there, blocking my escape, his massive frame silhouetted against the lights of the mansion. He started toward me, his expression blank, his hands curled into fists. I was trapped. The lake at my back, a killer in front of me. But I still had the confession, and I had nothing left to lose. "They'll throw you to the wolves, Gideon," I yelled, my voice raw. "When this falls apart, you're the one going to prison for life, not them, never them." He hesitated, his step faltering. For the first time, I saw something other than blank obedience in his eyes. I saw calculation. In that moment of hesitation, a new sound cut through the night, the distant wail of sirens, growing louder, closer. Gideon stopped, looking back towards the house, then at me. The balance of power had shifted. "The document names you, Gideon," I lied, pressing my advantage. "It says you killed that DEA agent. I have it. If I don't walk out of here, a copy goes to the FBI." It was a bluff, but a desperate one. The sirens were at the gate now. Red and blue lights flashed through the trees. I saw Alistair, Cassius, and Octavia being read their rights, their masks of respectability finally shattered. Lysander was standing by one of the SUVs, talking to a man in a suit. He saw me and looked away, his face a mixture of shame and relief. He hadn't just betrayed me, he had cut a deal. An agent approached me. "Ma'am, are you Seraphina Vance?" I corrected him, my voice trembling. "My name is Seraphina Vance." I held out my suitcase. "I believe I have something you've been looking for."